always looking at it with the lens of, can we use this to build power? How do we make this matter offline? How do we make sure our Instagram followers are turning into our supporters, our volunteers, our votes?
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Hello Merge Tag, a podcast about social media, politics, and where they intersect. We check in with candidates, consultants, strategists, and more to find out what's working and what's not in the political digital world. I'm your host, Josh Clemens of Reverbal Communications. We help progressive campaigns and organizations win the internet. Have questions you want answered on the pod? Have a guest or topic recommendation? Just want to say hey? Drop us a line at hello@reverbalcommunications.com. Find all episodes at hellomergetag.com or wherever you stream podcasts. Now let's dive in. Look out, Facebook. Now you can drive website visits directly from CivicShout. Introducing Express CPC, CivicShout's new cost-per-click ad system. Everyone already knows that CivicShout's the best way to grow your opt-in email list. Folks like M&R, Greenpeace, and Feeding America stand by it. So can you. Grow your list and run traffic campaigns that hit so hard, your team will wonder how you did it. Environmental Action called CivicShout a wildly better way to grow your email list. And Clarify Agency saw a 200% return on ad spend in just 2 months. CivicShout, the ad platform for progressive causes. Head to civicshout.com/partners to learn more. That's civicshout.com/partners. Hey y'all, quick note before we dive in. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving a review on Apple, Google, or wherever you listen. We're also putting every episode on YouTube now, so if you prefer your digital deep dives with video, head on over that way. You can find all links plus lots more at hellomergetag.com. And if you're already watching on YouTube, hey, apparently I am legally obligated to say, please like and subscribe. So go ahead and do that. Okay, thanks, y'all. Back to the show.
You might not recognize today's guest by name, but you have seen her work in action. Gabbi Zutrau is a freelance digital consultant specializing in progressive communications. She's worked with organizations like MoveOn and Stop AAPI Hate, and her expertise in digital strategy has powered advocacy efforts across the movement. She's also the creator behind Edna the Runt, an adorable pup who anchors her own lively social community with a ton of followers and massive engagement. Recently, she helped a little upstart candidate win his New York City mayoral primary. That's right. Using automation tools, she was part of the team that built and engaged a grassroots army that helped Zohran Mamdani trounce Andrew Cuomo and his billionaire backers. So thank you so much for coming on the pod today. I would love to start the conversation with Manychat. High level, we'll get into the weeds, but you used Manychat to create automations that brought so many people in throughout the campaign. I see so many quote unquote growth hackers using those tools in such bad and cringy ways. So it's fascinating to see somebody like turn it around and actually say, oh, this is actually a tool that could be used for good as well. So I'm really curious, how did this happen? Just like kind of tell us the origin story of how you wound up on this campaign doing this thing that, like, for all intents and purposes, I don't think anybody's ever done in electoral politics before.
Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, I mean, I'll just start with the origin story, which is I saw people using Manychat. I saw lifestyle influencers and creators using Manychat starting a couple of years ago. And I immediately recognized it as probably a really powerful digital organizing tool. My background originally, I have like formal training in community organizing and student organizing. So whenever I see interesting digital tools, I'm always looking at it with the lens of, can we use this to build power? So that's definitely where my brain went immediately when I saw Manychat in use for the first time. And that was when I started pitching my longtime client MoveOn on using it. I thought that it would be a really great way to get people to convert from Instagram followers into people on our own lists. Turns out that's true. So I've been kind of like honing it as a tool with them for about a year and a half. And, you know, they're always so ready to experiment with the digital cutting edge tools. So they really heard me pitch it and gave me the green light immediately to start experimenting. Yeah, so that's kind of where I began using it as an advocacy tool. And I, sorry, my dog is like making a bunch of noise.
You live with a famous dog. We are comfortable with the noise.
They will make an appearance.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, so when I had been tracking the mayoral campaign, and specifically looking at Zohran's socials, Brad's socials, and Cuomo's socials, paying like a lot of attention to them. And when I saw Zohran's video confronting Trump supporter czar Tom Homan in Albany.
How many more New Yorkers? How many more New Yorkers will you detain? How many more New Yorkers without charge? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan?
I realized it was immediately getting a lot of attention and picking up momentum really fast within the first hour. And they had already been getting traction online and clearly like were doing a great job on social. But that was kind of the moment I realized this campaign is about to explode. And the question that they're asking themselves is, how do we make this matter offline? How do we make sure our Instagram followers are turning into our supporters, our volunteers, our votes? And that's the question that like all my clients ask themselves eventually is like, how do we turn these internet people, all this online enthusiasm into concrete results on the ground? So I texted my old boss, State Senator Julia Salazar, who I worked for during her first term, doing her comms and digital. And I was like, Julia, like, who is running comms on this campaign? I have to ask them something. And she sent me the comms director's number, and I texted him. I procrastinated a little bit, but eventually I texted him.
Okay.
Being like, hey, like, can I set this up for you for free, basically? And I pitched him on, I didn't want to tell him too much over text because it like was a lot of info and like I didn't want to overwhelm him, and I wanted him to say, yes, you can come set this up for us. So I kind of just pitched him vaguely on this chatbot that is in like, that could be a game changer in helping funnel their Instagram followers and audience onto their own list so that they could organize them up their ladder of engagement and take them off the internet and into the streets. So he texted back and was like, yes, this sounds really great. Let's get on a phone call. And we talked for like 30 minutes, and I just pitched him Manychat, what I've seen it do, what I think it could do for this campaign at this specific moment. And he was pretty bought in after just that 30-minute conversation. And what I initially offered to do was sort of set up a Manychat infrastructure that I could set it, like, so that I could set it and forget it. And they wouldn't need to re-engage me, just so that like I wouldn't become another expense for the campaign. But I am not a good canvasser. I have like a bad back, a bad body situation. And like what I've always been able to contribute is my digital expertise. So I offered to do this pro bono at first, but as soon as I set up a few flows that could kind of like stand on their own and not need any additional intervention, they were like, can we just hire you to do this and build this out more? And I was like, of course you can.
So how did you approach this differently for an organization like MoveOn than you did for a campaign? Obviously there's very different goals. MoveOn is looking for a long-term ladder of engagement and, you know, ongoing support, whereas obviously Zohran also wants long-term support, but there's also a very finite, like, this is the day that we are working towards. Was there a different way that you think about it, or in retrospect, like, no, they really have the same approach and you would have done them the same way, like, next time around?
Yeah, I think there are slightly different approaches because of the different goals. For one, for MoveOn, when I first started working on it with them, it was a lot of guesswork and a lot of trial and error and finding out what worked and what felt spammy and what didn't. And then starting off on the campaign, I already kind of was familiar with Manychat's superpowers as well as its weaknesses. And like data is one of the less robust areas of Manychat. So I was able to, off the bat, kind of set up an intricate tagging system to make sure we were able to keep track of the data more closely and be able to say more about who clicked on what. But also, I think as far as the different goals, our main goal was to get more people on our volunteer list so that we could get them to volunteer and talk to more New Yorkers and get more New Yorkers out to the polls on or before election day. So our calls to action were just really different. And I think that like one of the key differences was that this was a page that was actively blowing up when I came in. It was actively already blowing up and gaining traction and followers really quickly. And So there was just an ability to make slightly higher bar asks of people, whereas at MoveOn or at a when I've set it up otherwise, like you need to be more conscious of how hard an ask you're asking people to do on social media and what your call to action is. So like if your goal is to get people onto your list, you want to give them the lowest friction option possible. And that might be taking a pledge, that might be signing a petition, it might be sending a letter. It's probably not going to be show up at this event, show up to Canvas. Right. Whereas with the campaign, especially because they met their fundraising cap in March, or their spending cap rather in March, they weren't raising money at the end. They were only asking people for their time and volunteer effort. But they were able to still get a lot of click-throughs and turnout there because there was so much energy and like such a fandom developing. So I think like that's the key difference, is that it was an exploding page that had a finite deadline, whereas if you are more interested in building your list over time, you're gonna just have really different CTAs and probably track those a little bit differently too.
I'm really interested in that. Like Zohran quite famously asked people to stop donating, like that was like one of his big first viral videos, I think, that like really blew up nationally. And that's very unique to, I mean, New York is not the only place where that happens, but it's not very common in electoral politics. If he had not had that cap on fundraising, would this have been a good tool for fundraising? Or do you think that this only worked because it was about community and not about money?
No, it's a great tool for fundraising.
Okay. That's what I assumed you would say, but I have no idea. I've never done this. I'm very curious.
As soon as the primary was won, I then incorporated a donation button into the flows. Okay. And within a couple of days, we had hundreds of clicks on that button.
Wow.
Okay. So no, fundraising is very great use.
Okay, super helpful to know. And let's talk about scale, because I know like you've talked about that. I think I read, you've done a couple other interviews that I've gotten to read and whatnot. You talk about that automation strategy is key for any serious campaign. But like you also said, like MoveOn is a national name, and Zohran, by the time you joined the campaign, was already kind of blowing up. Does this work for a campaign that's not actively blowing up? Can it help folks blow up? Or does this only work once you kind of hit a certain scale where folks are actively like, the campaign has to be overwhelmed before this would make sense? Like, where's the kind of scale at which point like this is worth pursuing, both for nonprofits and for campaigns, in your opinion?
Question too. What I will say is I think any campaign can benefit from it. And I wouldn't say that about a lot of tools, because lots of tools that like could be useful to anyone are really expensive. Manychat is not expensive.
I'm very curious to hear. I saw you said in like Rachel Carton's, like the CPM was bonkers, and we can talk about that later or now. Feel free, but like bonkers CPM for how much work was going into this.
Yeah. So ultimately on the campaign, we sent over 77,000 automated messages, and we generated over 21,000 click-throughs from those messages, and those are on calls to action like come canvas, come phone bank if you're not local to New York, or volunteer another way, or like come get some merch, or sign up to go to this event, whatever it was. So we, experienced just like a really high click-through rate on a lot of those, but we can also get to that later. But because there was like a discount for like a first-time Manychat user, and because it's just simply not a very expensive tool, the cost per acquisition was just around 3%. We spent $318 over the course of the 2 months that we were using it.
All of that work happened for $318.
Plus, I mean,
sure, your power, obviously, but like the tool itself was only a few $100s. That is wild, given like how much like it expanded what y'all were able to do, and we'll see if that holds. If Manychat's listening to this conversation, who knows? Adding zeros to the end for future campaigns. No, that's wild. That's really interesting to hear that it can be a fundraising tool, because I'm sure a lot of folks, but yeah, I am curious, like at what scale do you need it? But I think it's hard to know the answer, but because it sounds like you've gotten to do this with some really big, organizations that are already like flying. I'd be very curious to see how this works for like a state Senate candidate who like, you know, has a few hundred likes on Facebook and is just getting going.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so to be totally clear, it is most useful if you're already blowing up on social, like kind of anything. Like
sure.
you will get the most bang for your buck and have the lowest CPA if you are already getting a lot of traction. But I think it's useful for anybody because of the way that Manychat prices the tool. It's like per number of people who have contacted you or interacted with your account since you got the bot, since implementing. So if you don't have a ton of people messaging you, it doesn't cost very much. It starts at $15. I think I use it on my dog's account and she pays like $25 a month. So it's really cheap. And I think that having automation is key for any campaign, because the alternative is one of two things. It's either someone on your staff is answering all your messages, which is like nice, great, can be good organizing. But like I've been that guy doing community management and it's really tiring and tedious and hard, and can really easily lead to burnout. So that's one option. The other option is complete silence from you. People try to reach out and they don't get hit with a message asking them to volunteer. They don't get at any response from you. That I think is the worst case scenario. Another secret third option though is you could turn on, at least on Instagram and on Facebook, you can turn on auto replies that are like natively built in and can contain live links. So this is kind of the reason that Manychat is so special, and the magic of Manychat comes from the fact that like Instagram is an app from hell and no one should use it. But what I mean by that is like, it's very hard to get people off of Instagram to do something else. And that is an issue that like all organizations and campaigns contend with, and have contended with for a decade. But like what Manychat does is get around the fact that Instagram does not have any clickable links in feed. The only places you can click a link on Instagram are in bio, in your story, in broadcast channels. That might be it. And then
and ends. Yeah, for sure. And then the ends, right.
So it kind of gets around this problem with the or it's not a problem. It's built this way because Instagram makes its money from your eyeballs being glued to the screen. They want to feed you as many ads as possible, and they want you to be stuck in that infinite scroll for as long as humanly possible so that they can show you more ads. So this is another issue that Manychat solves for, which is that any piece of content that directs people to do something off of the app or to exit their infinite scroll, like what we can tell as people who like work with these algorithms every day is that that downranks your content. Instagram really doesn't like that because they don't want to show people content that makes them leave the app or go to your bio and exit their infinite scroll. They really don't like that because it's not good for their business model. But what Manychat can do is rather than asking people to go to the link in your bio and teaching the algorithm this is a piece of content that's going to make them leave their infinite scroll, you're asking people to engage in the comments and they can just like continue scrolling after that and keep going for as long as they want. And your link is still in their DMs. It has been sent to them. It's with them. They don't have to look at your content again to get reminded that they need to go hit the link in bio.
Right.
So it kind of problem solves for having like it being a really low friction way to send people a link and ask them to do something and not getting your content downranked for asking people to exit whatever activity they're engaged in.
And I imagine all those comments only helps additionally. And like every comment Instagram's excited by, although I do remember Facebook engagement bait like became a thing a few years back and the word comment actually gets deprioritized. But again, when you're Zohran, like you can do that. But like, I do wonder, like if a small state assembly campaign or city council candidate does it, like, is Facebook just going to roll their eyes and say, nah, the algorithm.
I've wondered that too. And I've asked this directly to Manychat and they're like, that's not real. But I have a feeling it's like a little bit of a trade-off. Like as a guy who spends a lot of time on these apps, I feel like it is a little bit of a trade-off. Like you might get flagged for bot-like behavior if there's just like, you know, unbelievable amounts of the same word in the comments. You might get dinged or like downranked for like asking people to comment and doing engagement baity stuff. But like from what I've seen, if it's a good piece of content, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Like, and I also have found that like, you know, I think Meta came out officially and was like, engagement bait, bad for you, don't do it. But I just never saw, I never saw the results of that. What I did see was like sometimes posts with calls to action on them not performing very well, but oftentimes to me it looked like they were just not very good posts. Like they were flyers being like, click the link in bio to attend this event. It's like, that's a terrible CTA for social, and it's like a flyer. So, you know, I think this is like an argument in the broader digital world. Like, does engagement bait like mess your stuff up?
There's a music venue here in Madison that used to go viral with almost every post because they would give away free tickets to shows and you had to tag who you were going to take. And I would see hundreds of comments. And then when engagement bait came out, that was the place where I saw like it disappeared. I stopped seeing those sort of contests work because they were forcing people to tag folks, which and like, comment, share, vote, and tag were the 5 engagement bait words that Meta told us not to use. But I think the like forcing folks to tag each other probably got penalized more than saying like, say Miranda in the comments.
100%. And I've noticed this on my dog's account. Like we do merch giveaways and other kinds of giveaways here and there, like when we hit another 10K or whatever. And those posts perform really badly. They have more comments than anything, but the posts perform
because
badly because they're asking people to do a tag train, essentially.
Yeah.
And then when I ask people to do a Manychat call to action to comment a specific word, like for in our brand deals or when I want people to go to a different website, I don't notice that there's
that penalization,
or like I don't notice that the engagement or reach are less than I would expect.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think other people probably had the different experience.
And obviously, Meta could switch this tomorrow. Like everything we're saying right now could literally be undone. Like Manychat could be out of business in a week. You know, like if Meta wants them to be, at least on the Meta platform.
Manychat is that they are like an official partner of Meta's, and they're not just like some random piece of equipment that is like getting around Meta's API and you know, it is going to go out of business in a week. Like they work with Meta to make this work, and for the most part, they're like the automations are not getting tagged as bot-like behavior. Like, and they have these throttling mechanisms in place too, that like if basically Meta will not let you send more than 750 messages an hour, I think is the limit. And if you run up against that because you ask people to comment Canvas now and 751 people comment that and you're sending them the automated message, Manychat will actually stop responses like at 7:49 and wait an hour and then send the rest of them, which is like not ideal, but it's the way that they get around it, or else like your account's gonna get flagged and everybody.
You don't want that for sure. Yeah, we live in the Meta universe. We got to follow the rules, whether they're good rules or complicated rules. Yeah.
I want to go back to your initial question, which is about scale and can anyone actually benefit from this? I think for sure anyone can benefit from it, and I also think that setting up automation, whether it's Manychat or something else, setting up an automation infrastructure is so key if you expect to go viral or if you expect to have a breakout moment. Can you hear my dog barking?
Yeah, but we love Edna here. It's okay.
Oh my God. She's here.
If you're listening to this podcast, I highly recommend you head on over to YouTube right now and you can see Edna on camera for at least a moment here and there.
But yeah, I think that no matter how big your account is, you can benefit from setting up an automation infrastructure sooner than later, because you don't want to be caught going viral or having a key moment, even if that's like in the news or just like a key date for your campaign. You don't want to be caught in that high volume moment and not have a way to capture people, not have a way or a plan to funnel people from Instagram onto your own list. Because what we know about social and email is that email is a much higher converting technology than social media. It also like, part of that is that social media casts a wide net and reaches people who don't care about you. But part of it is that social media doesn't reach your whole audience. Any post of yours is never going to reach every single person in your audience, whereas email is always going to hit people's inboxes unless, you know, there's spam stuff involved. But like, you have a 100% chance basically of hitting people's inboxes, whereas like your social content does not have close to that for getting fed to your audience. And just as far as like click-through rates and conversions, I think that like conversion rate as far as like showing people a call to action and getting them to do what you want them to do, for email it's like 4 to 6%, and for social it's like probably for you under 1%.
Right.
So it's really, really key that if you are planning to get notoriety and followers on social, you have a way to get them onto your email list when it matters, when the big moment comes. And yeah, so I think that anybody can benefit from having it set up from a whatever stage you're at. That said, it is obviously a lot more helpful, impactful, and cost efficient if you are currently blowing up, or like you have a really great content strategy and you can plan to blow up in a couple of months.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you put money behind any of the posts that have that like Manychat tools, or it was all organic?
No, but you can. Okay.
Like you don't think that there's no downside? Y'all just didn't need to do it because you were blowing up.
So it's all organic. All of on the campaign, it was all organic. But you can put money behind it. I don't want to totally advise on like a boosting strategy or not boosting strategy. Obviously for Zohran, like the video team was so unbelievably talented, and like they were just getting hundreds of thousands of views on every video. So like reach was not a question or an issue. But I also, you can also use Manychat on ads, but I don't recommend it because I think that, again, what is magical and special about Manychat is that it gets around this problem of not having clickable links on Instagram. Whereas with an ad, you have a button. You have the fastest, like lowest friction way to engage people and convert them already built in. But boosting, I haven't used boosting with Manychat, and I'm curious about it.
Yeah. No. Again, like with a campaign that, like you said, every post goes viral, it's less relevant. But for a lot of candidates, especially when they're starting out, like I'm curious, like if you put $20 behind it and have that in there, is it a good way to grow the email list? And definitely something I am looking forward to experiment with in the coming years. So
yeah. Well, and one more thing that I'll say about scale is that like this is for like having Manychat set up, preparing to go viral, preparing for like a piece of content to go viral, and like using Manychat on that post is just one way that it can be used. One of the like biggest ways that we used Manychat on the campaign was setting up automated messages to send when people sent us a DM or when people tagged the account in their stories. All of those people would receive interactions back from us asking them to do whatever the next step was, typically volunteering. But I also would say, like, if you're not a candidate that like has a ton of energy online already, that it would be best to include in those automated replies lower bar calls to action, like pledge to rank this person #1, pledge to vote for this person on election day, like sign our petition to get our opponent to drop out, or like sign this birthday card, just like whatever like lead capture technique you have determined you want to use. That's probably a better call to action than like come out and volunteer, because that's like people really have to be behind you and want to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there a way to differentiate? Like, there's no sentiment analysis, right? Like if the story is negative, are you still hitting them with your chatbot, or it's like, is there AI built in that says, oh, this seems like they don't like us?
I actually can't remember if there's sentiment analysis. I don't think that there is, but what you can do is you can make it so that if a message contains a specific word, you can program the bot to not respond to it or to respond to it in a different way. Whereas I'm pretty sure that the situation is that you can't totally tell who's going to hit you with a negative message and who's going to hit you with a positive message. But the determination I have made anyways is that it's better to be able to hit everyone with a message than be so afraid to hit someone with the wrong message that you don't hit anyone.
Right. Worst case scenario, you're talking to somebody who doesn't like you and it's over.
And we did, I've seen those situations, and I've learned through lots of trial and error what makes sense to include in your initial programming and what you should probably exclude. One good example of this is I have had in the past a setting turned on for the automated flows that automatically likes a message or automatically likes any story that you're mentioned in, which very quickly it becomes obvious when that's a bad idea.
Yeah, very quickly, I would imagine.
Something like this, where you get a lot of negative mentions every day. So the natural response to that is to turn off that feature. Or you're constantly kind of monitoring the flows for if they feel spammy or if they feel robotic, and putting different conditions and tags on the flows to help it send the right messages to the right people. And you I think with experience, you can predict those things for sure. I've gotten much better at predicting what's going to feel spammy and what techniques you can use to have it not be spammy, but you can only really get better and better at making it feel less spammy. And you just get constant feedback about it and then make your tweaks to the flow.
Yeah. So you use Manychat. You just outlined a couple different ways. I think you laid out that there are 4 different ways you use Manychat. Comment prompts, auto response to DMs, capture emails, and auto response to story tags. And tell me if I missed any. I guess liking stories was one, but you nixed that. Did you find that one was more powerful or beneficial than the other? Did they all work in tandem, or they were just all their own thing and they all had different ebbs and flows and pros and cons throughout?
That's such a good question. Here's what I'll say. I'll say that it is kind of the success of each one is directly proportionate with how much the user was expecting something from you. So what we saw with the comment to DM flow, so comment Canvas now and we'll send you the link to Canvas. Comment merch now and we'll send you the link to pick up your window poster.
Right.
Those comment to DM flows were really effective and had extremely high click-through rates. And the reason for that is that people wanted the link. If you commented it, they
were telling you to give it to them, right?
So we saw 76% of the messages we sent were clicked on. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
Or with the comment to DM flows.
I got you. Not totally.
70% of the ones using the comment to DM flows, 76% were clicked on. And some of those were up to 98%. I remember I think the number one flow that we used was because merch was so, it was kind of exclusive on this campaign because they weren't doing fundraising. And for who knows, possibly several other reasons. Because there wasn't a ton of merch floating around, people were just hungry for merch. People were asking every day, where do I get merch? So when
it's a special campaign that has that problem for sure. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, for sure.
People were very impassioned.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
And they wanted the swag. So the day that we posted about having window posters to pick up at physical locations across the city, we posted a flow attached to the post that was comment, I forget it might have been poster, comment poster, and we'll send you the link to sign up to go get your poster. We saw 98% clicks on those pages. That's so much.
Right. You wouldn't get that in the room if people said they wanted it. You're going to have people be I changed my mind. That's that's wild. Yeah.
And what, like, I can't speak to like what the conversion rate was after that. I don't have data that granular, and it's possible that people like saw that it was like in Union Square and they didn't want to go get it or whatever. But that we had 96 or 98% of people clicking through on that really blew my mind. And we had a lot of others like that where we had like over 80% click-throughs on the messages we sent. And then we had some that were a little bit lower. So like a good example of this is like something to keep in mind with Manychat flows is you don't want to set up a trigger word if you're going to keep it on, like Canvas Now. That was an always on trigger word, like that you could run on any post and it would always work. Or you can have like one that's more narrow and just on a single post, like the one that we had for the Cynthia Nixon phone bank. That was comment Miranda and we'll send you the link. That was only applied to that one post. But what
within Manychat, you were saying like they had to reply Miranda on that post. Like if I comment Miranda on a different post, it just nothing happens.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Whereas Canvas Now would happen on any post that I can't comment on. That's
and
cool.
So like one of the hot tips with Manychat is you really don't want to have an always on like universal trigger word that is too common. Like you wouldn't want it to be like Harlem or
vote or whatever. Right.
Or Zohran. Like that would be a really big mess.
Right.
And people would just be accidentally triggering the bot and like being like, why the hell am I getting this link? Well, like this is annoying. But we did have a few of those where I'll just give an example, like and like this is something that I've learned over using it over like many, many months now. Elsewhere, like I'll just move on to this. So the like one great example of when we saw lower click-throughs was when we on election day were like, okay, the trigger word today is vote. We don't care if people get spammed with their poll site locator. This is the one day we don't care. It's kind of like in the week before an election, you might send like 2 emails a day to your entire list because you're like, if you drop off, like,
turn it down.
I don't care. Like all I care about is like, you are going to vote. So like that was the one time where we just like, we're like, whatever, people can get spammed with this. We don't super like care as much, or like, it might be helpful if they get spammed with it. And like we saw very low click-through rates on those messages, like in the 20 to 30% range, because lots of people were getting this message that weren't asking for it. They were getting it by accident. So, you know, it's kind of like this classic lesson that like lots of fundraisers and digital organizers learn is that like people just like don't like to receive spam. That's a big surprise. And people do like to receive the stuff that they sign up for, and they'll click on it. We saw way lower click rates on the automated messages. So the DM response, first time somebody DMs us, we send them a response. But we did in that message typically include a warning that like, hey, like this is our automated reply and don't worry, we won't spam you with it. You'll only receive this once. So I want to call out that as like a nice tactic to make people not afraid to still be your reply guy. And then on the tagging and stories reply, we also saw a lower click rate, but still some clicks. Like it's still worth it, I think. And again, like the alternative is silence from
just disappear, right?
Yeah. Which
it was worth that $25 that you spent on? I mean, given the pricing, that's like wild. I assume this was like a serious expense line given like the kind of movement y'all had. So I think that alone, it's like, why wouldn't you do it?
I want to call out one more thing that's like very, very key.
Okay, go ahead.
The fourth flow was an in-DM email capture, which is so cool. Basically, like it was a follow-up, a secondary flow to some of the first flows that would ask also like, hey, if you want to receive emails from us about this, this, and this, just type in your email address below and we'll get it into our system. So people would type it in on their phone in the direct message and the bot would automatically grab it and put it directly in our CRM with no human intervention. And this was a really successful flow. Like not everybody did it, but it was a way to right there and then capture people's emails if they did want to be on the list. And this was one of the last flows that I set up. One of the last big flows that I set up for the campaign. So it was only running for a few weeks, but in those few weeks, it captured over 3,500 emails.
Wow.
Which is pretty good for something like no human had to work on after I set it up. And yeah.
Does this only work with Meta tools, or can you use it outside of Meta?
You can use it on WhatsApp, Instagram, obviously Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, but you can't really do political stuff in WhatsApp. There's a few others outside of the United States. You can use it on TikTok, but not the comment to DM feature, only like automated replies. That has yet to come to the US version for obvious reasons. Trying to think. I think there's a few other ways.
It doesn't work with Twitter, right?
No.
Not for that price point, it doesn't, I'm guessing.
I don't think I'm trying to remember what logos are listed in the sidebar of Manychat right now, and I'm fairly certain it doesn't work with Twitter.
And could you talk, how complicated is this tool to set up? Like, do you need a master's in engineering to build these automations out, or is it like drag and drop and anybody can do it?
I think anyone can do it, first of all. And second of all, I'll just say the peak of my coding career was coding my MySpace profile when I was 13.
Okay.
Like,
I remember the days, for sure.
You do not need to know how to code. You do not need an engineering degree.
Okay.
It is mostly kind of drag and drop. It definitely takes some learning to gain mastery and practice, just like a lot of practice to gain mastery, like any tool. And like what's tricky to learn about it is just sort of the logic of the flows. Like, you know, if someone receives this message, make sure to tag them like this. And then like the next step is like, if they have this tag, don't send them this message, send them this one instead. And just like learning kind of how the tagging and conditions structure works. And like testing it all out and just trying different things, learning how to set up the integrations on the back end, like integrating it with your CRM or with Google Sheets or whatever. That definitely, there's some learning that has to happen there, but anyone can set up a comment to DM flow in minutes.
Okay, that's super good to know.
Whereas like the bigger flows are definitely more complicated. Like some of them took me hours to build and then like more hours to refine later on. But yeah, it's not too hard.
Okay, no, cool. And I have one last question about that. I've got some non-Manychat questions for you. I am curious, how granular can your responses get? Like, so I run digital for a lot of candidates, and it is wild to me the kind of stuff people send into their inboxes where they like it's a parasocial relationship. Like these people feel like they're friends, like the candidates have an obligation to respond, and it's hard. You don't want to turn them out. Like you want these people obviously are interested, most of them, but it's like basic stuff. Like literally people like, hey, can we hop on the phone? It's like, no, dude, you can't hop on the phone with this statewide candidate right now. And but it's like, can you set up different triggers based on the type of messaging you're getting, or is it sort of can you do it by keyword? Or again, there's not sentiment analysis, although my guess is in the next few years, Manychat will incorporate AI and we'll be able to actually like, you can set guardrails and it can actually have more interesting conversations with folks. I'm just curious sort of how you found that working and like, talk to me about like how granular these things can get.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I really appreciate and like about Manychat is it's not trying to be your AI chatbot best friend. Like what the stimulus you put in equals something that comes out.
Okay.
But that said, you can get pretty granular with it. Like you can set it up so that if a person's message contains a specific keyword, they get a specific message. Or like if it contains a certain keyword, they get tagged a certain way. But I think that like, especially with a campaign that's getting such an unbelievable volume of messages, like, thousands or tens of thousands a week, in this case, it was helpful to make sure all those people were getting hit with a message, but like kind of too hard. Like what I recommended in this situation is just to make sure people were getting a response and like not try to get too far into the nitty gritty. Because also like trying to pretend like you are an advanced like AI chatbot, or like trying to get that granular and like assuming that someone mentioning a specific word equals you needing to say something, like it just, I think, is too hard to figure that out. I think you can get kind of as granular as you're comfortable with, and have the time to get. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. And again, like whether Manychat does it or not, I mean, there are plenty of creators out there who are trying to recreate themselves with AI bots. And it's hard to imagine this won't eventually make their way into social, because there's like all these opportunities for relationships, which I actually think is quite dangerous and dark. And like, that's not necessarily something you want to do, but having a very set, like, hey, we don't monitor this account, but like, thank you so much for reaching out. And like, it shows people that they're being listened to, even if they're not actively being listened to. Like, so I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think a lot of campaigns do not do that. And I say that as somebody who works in campaigns, but also engages with campaigns. And I think a lot of them just like assume people will find them someplace else. And, you know, they're not gonna, you know, like they're gonna say, oh, they ignored me, I'm done.
Yeah, I just think that it doesn't like serve a campaign to pretend to be real, or to like necessarily like have an AI chatbot that is pretending to be them. I think it's risky, and I think that like it invokes a lot of the ethical questions around AI that we are all asking ourselves all the time. And making sure that they're just getting a response that's like, hey, we try to read all our messages, but we can't always get to them. Like, please engage here. I think it's like such an awesome in-between to make sure people are getting a response and having the opportunity to further engage with you, with the goal of having them literally get off their phones, get into the streets, get organized, like have the leadership development experience of being organized and organizing others. Like, that's the big goal. And like not having to use AI to do that, but like using this automation tool to scale up your ability to get people into a genuine organizing situation. Like, that's a big part of what I find powerful about this.
Yeah, no, I love it. What is running the Edna the Runt accounts taught you about working in politics?
Everything.
For those who don't know Edna the Runt, walk through. You've got like serious followers. Like, walk through just kind of like how big an account is this? How long have you been doing it? And like, how does it influence your work in politics, or it's completely outside? And again, if you're not watching us on YouTube right now, you're missing a potato body dog that you do not want to be missing. My goodness.
This is she. So okay, I really got my start in social media, in political and nonprofit social media.
Okay.
Like, that's where I developed the vast majority of my skills. And then I got this dog, Edna, the love of my life, a few years ago, and I started an Instagram for her in January of 2022, just as like a nice little page for my friends and family to keep track of her on. Initially, I really did not want to start a page for her because I was like, I am running up to 20 social media accounts for elected officials and candidates and nonprofits right now. Like, I am burning out, and I don't want my beautiful baby dog to become another social media project for me. But like, you know, the people demanded it, and they were correct. So I started a few years ago, and yeah, I just like started posting, and then, you know, I'm pretty good at this. So she started gaining more traction. Eventually she went viral, and she's gone viral many times since. Yeah, now she's got over 107,000 followers on Instagram, like 76,000 on TikTok. Believe it or not, 26,000 on Facebook. The people on Facebook don't really like when she gets political, though. So yeah, and I mean, like, beyond that, she also is an influencer in the pet niche. Like, this is my life has gone a pretty weird direction here, but like, she brings in a lot of money. We do a lot of brand deals, and she does like thousands of dollars in brand deals every month. So it's given me a really, just as far as like what it has to do with working in politics, it's given me an unbelievable amount of insight into the creator economy, for one. Like, I've worked a lot on brand side, like organization side creator campaigns. And so I have that experience, but now, like, with her being an influencer, I'm able to see that from the creator side, which has been so helpful in working with creators. And then I'll also just say, I think that as my work has gotten a little bit less hands-on in my consulting practice, and like I don't spend quite as much time like writing copy and pressing buttons, I think it would be really possible for me to lose touch with the rhythms and the algorithms and the day-to-day and just like what the apps can do, the app updates, like really staying in touch with the technology. But Edna's accounts have just let me continue to be really hands-on across socials, and I learn new stuff just constantly. And I'm also able to experiment with the newest tactics and content types and anything I'm interested in on her account before making my clients suffer an experiment, which is so useful. Need I say more? Yeah.
Yeah, every time I see a new tool that I don't know, I start a new project. It's actually kind of a problem because I have like all these newsletters and podcasts and all these things I do, but I'm like, well, I want to learn how that tool works. So I'll just start a project because like I cannot tell anybody else how to do something if I haven't done it myself. There's no way. And like you said, I think there's a lot of people who like used to know how to do something, but if you are not actively using social media, you do not know social media, as you know very well. Like it's so like within a month, you're like out of date. Like the things that were working a month ago are not always working today. And again, like Manychat, I'm sure will still be working for years. I'm like, I don't know, but like you're going to keep working on it before you're going to go tell other people to do it. So no, I love it.
So true.
On that note, besides Zohran, who else do you think is doing interesting digital these days in politics or in general?
Yeah, I mean, wow. I like where to begin, but also I would be just remiss to not mention Chiose, who has just been like
love
absolutely doing the thing for years, like has been so ahead. And like he is an example of someone I think of as like a creator elected, someone who is like both genuinely a creator and understands how to reach his audience, hook people in and build and grow on social, and also like is an incredible elected official. And you can't expect that from everybody, obviously.
Oh, I know.
You definitely can't expect it from everybody, but you also like not everybody needs to be that. I'm sure it's more and more helpful every single day, but not everybody needs to be that. And it can be faked to an extent. But I'll just say like very importantly, I think most of my inspiration working in political digital does not come from political digital. It comes from people like, it comes from creators, honestly. It comes from creators and small businesses who are like, my bag relies on me figuring out how to get people off this platform onto my list, buying my product, whatever it is. Like Vanessa Lau, I think her name is like this incredible YouTuber who is a goddamn genius at content repurposing and just like really knows how to milk every piece of content for all it's worth and like have each piece live its best life and have each piece like be meaningful for conversion and getting people off platform. And just like following creators, I learn new stuff constantly. And it also like obviously helps you keep up on the trends too, just in like content types. And then one huge source of knowledge for me has been this account called Your Social Team, I think it's called. They are like a small business, like for-profit, like team, mostly run by this one woman, Manu, who just really knows her shit and is great at making educational content about it. So I think like if you can draw inspiration from the for-profit world, the small business world, and the creator world, and kind of look at all of the things they are trying and experimenting with the lens of, can I use this to build power? Is this an organizing tool? You're going to find amazing tactics that you never would have thought of and that you definitely haven't seen on political social. That said, like I'll also shout out inactive now, but the team behind Kamala HQ, like I was very, very impressed with. And from the interviews I've read with that team, it was really like some of the magic there was about having a supervisory structure that was not super afraid. It was like really a lot of people hiring great practitioners and trusting that they knew what they were talking about, and not like having like a super long approvals process or like an opportunity to really like choke the creativity out of that project. I thought that, you know, it was obviously like legendary and very impressive. Trying to think, there's so many others. Like,
sure. No, this is great. Yeah, I mean, it's a question I ask most folks because I think it's really helpful to see like where the folks who are doing it are getting their inspiration from. Because like, yeah, AOC is amazing, but like you don't even have to mention her. Like we all know AOC is amazing, but like who else is amazing, and like who else are you keeping an eye on? I think you shared a bunch of names that I bet a lot of folks have never heard of.
One more thing I'll add is like, I want to make the distinction that if you have good socials, that doesn't necessarily mean you have good digital. Like you can have amazing socials and not have figured out a way to make that translate
them over,
on your list or volunteers. Right. And like, but what's to be said about people with good socials? Like that's what I can see. That's public information. I don't know how your list is doing unless I'm looking at the back end analytics. And like, I don't know how your like SEO is being set up. Like I don't know so much of digital on a campaign, but social media is like the easiest to judge, which is why it's humiliating to work in. But it's the easiest to judge because it's so public and I can see your engagement. But yeah, I just wanted to say a lot of people out there, I'm sure, have really great digital, even if they're not nailing social, and vice versa.
Yeah, it's a good point. Digital is more than just viral moments. Like, are you like actively engaging a community to make a difference? You have good digital if you're doing it online, even if we're not seeing you show up on, you know, TikTok, you know, For You page every day. So no, I think that's a great flag. How can folks keep in touch with you moving forward? Is it just Edna the Runt, or do you want them to? Do you want to get messages from folks? Do you have a Manychat set up for your own stuff? If people drop Gabbi in the comments, will they get a link to your resume?
Well, when I want to use Manychat on my personal stuff, I do a collab with Edna because it does work on collabs. But the person, like the account that has a Manychat account, has to be the originator of the collab.
Got it.
I have a lot that is about to go live, but the main way you can keep in touch with me right now is on LinkedIn, Gabbi Zutrau. You can feel free to shoot me a message there. And you will also hear about all the upcoming updates there as well. And then, follow Edna the Runt across platforms. She sometimes gives out free digital consulting advice.
And folks can check out your Rachel Carton interview in link in bio, somebody who we are both big fans of, and it was super cool to see her nerding out about what you're doing with Zohran over that way. So thank you so much for coming on. This was super fun. I learned a ton. I'm pretty sure most people listening to this learned a ton, and excited to see some of this stuff get implemented into more campaigns moving forward.
Thanks for having me.
That does it for another episode of Hello Merge Tag. Thanks so much for listening. Know anyone who might appreciate this podcast? Please share it with them today. Find all episodes at hellomergetag.com or wherever you stream podcasts. Have questions or want to connect? Drop us a line at hello@reverbalcommunications.com. Until next time, keep on telling your story.